The broad planning group for all of HUD's homeless assistance programs is the Continuum of Care. And the Continuum of Care was codified through the HEARTH Act and implemented further in the Continuum of Care program regulations. But the Continuum of Care is intended to be the body of stakeholders that deals with all of HUD's homeless assistance programs. And it is the body that's nonprofit providers, local government, state government, schools, police, anybody within the community who has an interest in preventing and ending homelessness or really should be at the table for the geographic area strategy to prevent and end homelessness. Now, because they're such a large body, they need to have people to do that on their behalf. And so the Continuum of Care is going to select a board, and the regulation sets forth the requirements for how they select a board. There's not a lot there. The important piece is that they have a written process that works for them and that they follow the written process. And the board should be assigned duties as the COC sees fit. So that's going to be a little bit different in every community. Some boards will have responsibility for rating and ranking applications, and some won't because of conflict of interest provisions. The Continuum of Care is also responsible for designating the HMIS lead, and the HMIS lead is responsible for managing the HMIS on behalf of the Continuum of Care. And so that's the important piece. Even though they've selected someone to manage it and to apply for funds on their behalf, the Continuum of Care is ultimately responsible for the HMIS for the geographic area. And all of this needs to be documented in a governance charter. Everybody's roles and responsibilities need to be laid out in writing so that it's transparent and it's clear what everybody is in charge of. The Continuum of Care oftentimes is not a legal entity, and that is why the Continuum of Care has to designate a collaborative applicant, and the collaborative applicant is an eligible applicant that can apply for funds directly to HUD. If the Continuum of Care is a legal entity, they can designate themselves. And this is the entity that's responsible for compiling all the information and submitting it to HUD every year as part of the annual application. This is also the entity that's responsible for submitting a grant for the planning dollars to carry out the planning activities on behalf of the Continuum of Care. The Continuum of Care could also designate additional work groups, subcommittees to carry out other things that the Continuum of Care is responsible for. Common committees that we see are point-in-time committees, where the committee is just responsible for planning and organizing and carrying out the point-in-time count every year. You might have a rating and ranking committee if that duty hasn't been assigned to the board. I think the important thing to remember is the Continuum of Care, per the regulation, is in charge of everything related to planning and strategy. And if they designate others, it has to be clearly documented in the governance charter. Really what's important to HUD is transparency. And so everybody needs to know what's going on, how it's going on, and how you get to be a part of what is going on.